Wait a
Did you
minute.
turn that off?
Nah, do it again. Good luck editing that out. Hey everybody, it's Paul Reed Smith. Marc, we're back in the archives.
Yes, we are.
Everybody, that's Marc Quigley. And we bought an instrument back. I wasn't going to get it.
Right. Yeah, you were for some reason against it, but
I wasn't against it. I just didn't know.
you weren't as interested.
Yeah, but you wanted me to get this 12-string, right?
Yep. It's a pretty amazing piece. We don't really have anything else quite like it.
So this came from Richard Sales. I made this for Richard. I charged him for half of it, and he traded me the other half of it for a song that I got half the rights to called I Love You, I Know That, which was the theme song of Annapolis. We played at Charlie's West Side, and every day that we played, we would be forced to play I Love You, I Know That twice a night. People came just to hear the tune. Got to play it again, right? I mean, it became such a theme song of this town that I paid for it that way. So
Was that Band of a Thousand Names?
Well, Band of a Thousand Names was playing around the Annapolis area, but Richard Sales and the Sunsets were playing around at the clubs at the same time, and he was in, I think he was in Sky Cobb and a lot of the early bands from that area, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, Emmylou Harris came out of that whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Anyway, his daughter is now in the music business, and she's gifted. And anyway, I like this instrument. I thought it was cool. The trick with making 12 strings, in my opinion, is they put the strings too far apart. And if the strings are too far apart, you can't play it like a regular guitar. So these
You mean that when the sets are too far apart?
like if the strings
courses.
were way wider apart like that, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you have to adjust the intonation separately for these lower strings. So we used to cut the saddle in half with a saw and separate them by threads the right amount and move it into place.
So
that-
you turn one screw, but it moves
Both of them together,
both sides.
yeah.
That's really
Well,
clever.
That was the only way I could figure out how to adjust the intonation.
Yeah.
But it was a simple instrument, single pickup, but it sounds really good. I was just playing it for you in the other room. It's got a beautiful tone. It's clear as a bell.
Yeah. Now, this is not the first one you made?
No, I made a lot of 12 strings. We made a lot.
Really?
Made one for Nancy Wilson.
I remember that one with the big dragon with the heart in it on there.
And
She had that forever.
then double necks are 12 string. I mean, I know a double neck doesn't sound like a 12 string, but if you cut it in half, you have a 12 string,
Yeah.
right?
Now,
So-
is that more challenging, or are there challenges to doing a 12-string in a double neck format? I mean,
Well, the problem with a double neck, if you screw up one guitar, you've screwed up the other guitar.
Right.
You're making two guitars and you have half the chance for messing up. But we made 12 strings after this here in the factory. We have one of those here, right?
we do, yeah. We did them for a little while. I don't think we.
Well, they were on the price list for years and years and years.
Yeah, but I mean, this single hum configuration, I don't think we did for very long.
Well, it has the separated saddles, but this one has a screw for each one.
Oh yeah.
But once again, the strings are very close together, so you can play it, you know. It's basically the same instrument with a curly maple top, 3 pickups instead of 1, and the bridge was custom made for this, but it's the same general idea, right?
Right.
Now the headstock shape was a little different. It was pointed on the other one. This one's got our shape on it, right?
Yep.
That one, the first one, was made before that shape had arrived.
Right. Was there, I mean, this always amazed me about your 12 strings, is how well they play. You were already talking about it, about the separation of the strings.
You got to
But
get
it
the
really,
strings
you
pretty close
forget that
together.
you're playing,
A 12 string, yeah.
you forget you're playing a 12 string. Whereas every other one I've ever played, it's such a challenge to put your fingers in the right place.
Well, they
and
also
to-
use the gauge of strings is too high too.
Oh yeah.
You got to this string here is really thin. So I always would futz with the gauge. I would futz with how close the strings were together and make sure the intonation was right. And then you had a guitar.
Yeah.
So there was also a precursor to this instrument, which there's an 8-string fretless bass here.
There is.
So this is Tony Bunn's 8-string bass. Tony Bunn was in a band called Michael Urbaniak at the time, Michael Urbaniak, and he wanted me to make a fretless 8-string. And what he wanted was the high strings on this side because he thought it would be almost impossible to get it down to the fretboard if you put it on the other side because it puts your finger in an awkward position. This was a natural way to do it, so you could push down on it, but to do it the other way, he thought it would be almost impossible. And boy, did he get a sound out of this thing. It sounded wild through SVTs. Because at the time when they were doing, festivals, they would have, backline of 2 SVTs to the bass player, and he plugged this thing in. Man, it sounded like guns going off. It was cool.
SVTs are cool. Yeah. So this thing is really fascinating. First of all, the carve is just beautiful.
Thank you.
Gorgeous piece of mahogany. But these are are they
rotary switches for the high
position?
Yeah, the 12 position, yeah.
You have to explain that to me.
They were high A beasts, and you could put a rotary on them and change all the wiring. It was cool. I enjoyed it.
And then we have a chicken head volume.
Yeah, those are Raytheon knobs. And then the intonation was adjusted on the baddest. You see how I cut it away?
Oh, yeah. I like how it's inset.
Yeah, well, that was to get the neck angle down.
Yeah.
So that the strings were closer to the body. I didn't want the strings way up in the air. It didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, this thing is beautiful.
So this neck is 2 pieces. You see this?
Oh, yeah.
See it?
Wow. You didn't do that very often, did you?
Well, I wouldn't have done it, except that the only neck wood that I had that was strong enough to make an 8-string fretless was this really hard, rock hard mahogany, and the boards were too thin, so I had to glue them together. But I did it because I needed a neck wood as strong as rosewood, and I didn't have rosewood at the time. That stuff literally is hard as a rock. You can see, you've worked with mahogany enough to see that this is softer wood than that is, right?
Yeah, how dense it is.
Tony was really sweet to bring this thing back here.
Yeah. Ebony board?
Yeah.
And what's going on here?
The truss rod was installed wrong, and if I put that plug in, it made the truss rod work better.
Oh, cool.
What this plug does is pushes the truss rod down closer to the back of the neck so that the neck doesn't bend at the body like a lot of old Fender basses do.
And that headstock.
I really enjoyed doing that instrument. Now, there's only 2 screws in the jack plate. I must have been in a hurry. Look.
Oh, yeah.
Now, they were made out of brass because people would walk out of their cables all the time and break the plastic ones, and if you were made out of brass, the cable would break.
Right.
But he played that on tour for a long time.
Man.
It's a good sounding instrument.
Can't hardly tell. It's got a couple of dings on the back of the neck,
really?
but it's in great shape. A little scratch there.
The dots on the side are not where, in between the frets, is where the fret would be.
Right.
So that you would play in tune. Well, there you go, everybody. We're back in the archives room. I want to do this more. I like doing this.